Hey everybody, Prepper Nurse 1 here. Alright, this one, a friend of mine sent me this information. No idea, I had zero idea about it. I'm going to take a guess that a lot of you are also going to have zero idea about what I'm going to be talking about here. We're going to be talking about Muammar Gaddafi in Libya. Okay? So, we're going to give you a little bit of the history about the Great Man-Made River Project, right? How many of you know what that even is? How many even know what that is, right? You're going to be like, what are you talking about, Prepper Nurse 1? In 1953, in an effort to find oil in southern Libya, led to the discovery of large quantities of potable fossil water underground. The Great Man-Made River Project was conceived in the late 1960s. The work on the project began in 1984. The project's construction was divided into 5 phases. The first phase required 85 million of evacuation and integrated on April 28th, August of 91. The second phase, dubbed First Water to Tripoli, was initiated on September 1st of 96. The project is owned by the Great Man-Made River Project Authority and was funded by Gaddafi's government. Now let me just give a little background. Obviously Libya is a desert area. With this project, what they were doing is they were trying to turn parts of the desert into oases where they could grow food and stuff and all those type of things, okay? Let's see. The primary contractor of the first phase was a South Korean company. I'm not even going to try to say the name. Imported goods, which were destined for use for construction, were made in Korea and Europe, mainly in Italy. All right, let's go. The total cost of the project was projected at more than $25 billion US. All right. They completed the work to date without financial support of major countries or loans from the world banks, which of course they don't like that, right? So they're training engineers on how to do this. The fossil aquifer from which the water is being supplied is the Nubian sandstone aquifer system. It accumulated during the last ice age and is not currently being replenished. In 2007, rates of retrieval if rates of retrieval are not increased, the water could last 1,000 years, right? That's a long time for that water to be able to be used for it. Other estimates indicate that the aquifer could be depleted of water as soon as 60 to 100 years. There's a big difference there between 1,000 years and 60 to 100 years. The project. Here's what I find this is what I find interesting. So we're gonna jump ahead here. So is this working and they're doing it and everything's beautiful and Libya is prospering and everything is great? Not so much, right? Let me just see here. On July 22nd, 2011, during the first Libyan civil war and the foreign military intervention, one of the 2 plants making pipes for the project was hit by a NATO airstrike. Isn't that interesting how that correlation that plant that was making the stuff, one of the 2 plants making the stuff to make this pipeline to get this water to people was hit. This is in 2011, right? At a press conference in July 26, NATO claimed that the rockets had been fired from within the plant area and that military material, including multiple rocket launchers, were stored there according to intelligence findings. So you're making excuses of why they bombed it. Were they there? I don't know. Were they not there? You don't know, right? Nobody's going to know that. But that plant was blown up. All right. Let's see. During the second Libyan civil war from 2014 to 2020, the water infrastructure suffered neglect and occasional breakdowns. As of July 2019, 101 of 479 wells on the Western Pipeline system have been dismantled. So they're not even using them, right? 101 of 479 wells are not even being used. On April 10th, 2020, a station controlling water flow to Tripoli and neighboring towns was seized by an unknown armed group. Isn't that convenient, an unknown armed group? The flow of water was cut for over 2 million people as a result, and as such the attack was condemned by the United Nations on humanitarian grounds. So, this project initially, alright, was initiated by Muammar Gaddafi. Started it in 1989, and he knew it was going to take quite a while for that to happen. And it's just so let's see. Here's the timeline. It's I'm just looking at this real quick. Because I want to make sure I'm giving you the right information that is being put out there. So Gaddafi had started all of that, and if we remember, he was overthrown and killed by his own people, supposedly. Not that any American government or any other government was involved in that in any way. Of course not, right? If you guys remember also, Gaddafi wanted to go on the gold standard. He did not want to go on the fiat dollar. Libya has a lot of oil as well, and so that's, they wanted to go on the gold standard. It is amazing, I find it amazing, that every country that has wanted to go on the gold standard has either had their government overthrown or they were invaded by, I don't know, NATO, right? And there's been issues and problems ever since then. You destabilize a country. Libya was prospering. They were doing very, very well. I find it hard to believe that without foreign interference, not saying that there was, not saying that there wasn't, again, of course, that the country ended up being destabilized, and now they're having all kinds of issues. This was a water source, folks, that could have turned desert regions of Libya into a very prosperous area, and that's never going to happen now. They've destabilized it. They've broken it down. They're shutting down the wells instead of opening them up and stuff like that. When you have 101 out of 479 are now shut, that's a quarter of those wells basically, and that's it's unbelievable to me, and that is even remotely acceptable. Let's do a little comparison. We have shipped how many billions to the war in Ukraine? 76, 79 billion dollars to the war in Ukraine. But for $25 billion, we could have had an aquifer usage to help Libya become a very prosperous country, growing a lot of their own food and thriving. But what has happened instead? Destabilization of the government, a lot of issues, controlling. I like an unknown military source took over a section of it and cut off water to more than 2 million people. Isn't that interesting? Do you not find that fascinating? And here's the question that I want to ask. I never heard of this. Alright? Never heard of this. Any of it. Until a friend of mine recently sent me the information. And, in NATO's involvement in part of that, we're blowing up that one plant. But of course, NATO had their excuse of why they blew up that one plant. Crazy, folks. Crazy. When good things can be done, why are they not being done? Why is war backed in money being dumped into war when you could dump that money into something positive that's going to have such a positive effect on so many people? It is amazing to me. Amazing. And that's just, it just continues and it continues and it continues, right? Heaven forbid, that people get help and they're going in the right direction. So anyway, I want to hear your thoughts on this. I want to hear what you have to say. Have you even ever heard of this project? I mean, like I said again, I hadn't. So, and what has happened through the course of everything, very sad in my opinion, in a travesty. Why isn't the money being invested in something like that? Okay? Anyway, guys, remember we truly are all in this together. We are one race called the human race. As soon as we figure that one out, we'll be in better shape. Also, remember to hug and kiss the ones that you love. Tell them every single day. Also, remember STD, step, thing, and day. One step at a time, one thing at a time, and one day at a time. Whatever you are trying to accomplish, whatever you're trying to do, you can do it. The only person that's going to stop you from reaching your goals is you. That's it, nobody else. Stay positive, stay away from the negativity, and you're going to be just fine. I hope you're all having a great day. I will talk to you later. Prepper Nurse 1, out for now.